Hey, it's your man Andrew. Welcome back with another video review, and today I'm going to be reviewing AD&D 2nd Edition. That's going to be a video response to BG Turquia. Brian, go check his channel out. Some good, thoughtful, insightful views on fantasy role-playing games, particularly AD&D, and particularly AD&D 2nd Edition. A lot of that stuff can be applied over the board to Dungeons & Dragons or to fantasy games in general, and some of it to just role-playing games overall. So he's got a lot to offer there in terms of the thought on role-playing games and putting campaigns together. So definitely interesting channel to check out. And I've plugged him before, and I'll plug him again because I like his stuff. So I've been talking about some of the differences really between AD&D and the 3X line, but specifically a 2nd versus 3.5. Now, first of all, Brian, let me drop this on you. I really like AD&D. I like it a lot. I played absurd amounts of hours of AD&D, particularly 2nd Edition, but really, once 2nd Edition came out, I don't think very many people are like, ideologues in 2nd Edition, we can't take the monk class or assassins or whatever. There's some things they've been kept out, but I remember everyone saying, okay, can I play a half-orc or something? People are like, whatever, half-orc, sure. Or bringing up an Unearthed Arcana Barbarian from 1st Edition, or a Cavalier from 1st Edition, or an Acrobat, although people have really played those. I think, all that is pretty much fine. I mean, the major differences were the secondary skills versus non-weapon proficiencies between those editions, and the way they changed Thief and Bard. They really changed those up a lot. By Thief was like, you get this, and that sucks. The way AD&D 1st Edition Thieves were, they were the absolute drizzling balls. 2nd Edition gave you the chance to make your Thief or Bard, here's a number of skills per level, do something with these skills, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to take these skills and I'm going to customize my character the way I want. And I am a huge advocate of being able to do what I want with my damn character. So what's up here and what's happened through the story can be replicated. If I haven't even seen a wall, why climbing walls go up? If I haven't seen a damn tree, if I'm like an Athos, I'm the Athos, rogue. And for like 19 levels, I've just been walking around the damn desert slashing things. There's nothing for me to climb. I'm not in a city. I'm just out in the desert mugging dudes, sneaking up on dudes. Why is my climb walls going up? Make any sense. So I like the way they handled that. It made the rogue more believable instead of just a static, almost video game-ish sort of character. Now let me talk about stats in AD&D. Now, those of you who've not played AD&D before, these are going to sound weird because they're one of the most house rulesy aspects of the game, and a lot of the stuff isn't this clunky in AD&D. It is not smooth or refined, and that's one of the things when I saw 3.0, I said, wow, look how refined these are. Now, first of all, none of your stats give you the kind of bonuses that they do in the 3X line. They are not uniform across the board. They do not give you the same number to everything. Your strength, in fact, just gives you nothing. Before I say it, let me put a little disclaimer here. I've not actually looked at this book other than having a quick PDF glance the other day, and that was just at the weapons table to look at speed factors. Other than that, I have not looked at the AD&D Player's Handbook in about 12 years, although I used to have vast sections. Other than the spells, I had almost the entire book memorized. I knew almost everything in the book, and it seems to be coming back to me pretty well. So if I blunder here and there, apologies. But the strength of 15, that's a strong athletic guy. It gives you nothing, no bonus at all. Now, a strength of 16 gives you no bonus to hit, but a +1 bonus to damage. They were quicker to give you damage bonuses to strength than bonuses to hit. Okay. Now, that's fine, but fighters, if you have an 18, the highest stat a human could have 18. 18 is here. That's your pinnacle. That's just a +1 to hit, a +2 to damage. Fighters, however, got to roll percentile strength. Up 1 to 50 was +1 to hit, +3 to damage. A little bit better. But they would start going up in much smaller categories, up to 18 double odd, 18 100. And damn if I didn't see a lot of characters that had 18 double odd. I rolled it in front of no one. I saw a lot of them. I never ever saw a character with all 1 strength, ever. Now, in truth, I'd have rolled in front of people 3 different times characters with 18 double odd strength, but they're all for like shit games. Like, we play this one game with this terrible game master, and we're done. Yeah, glad I rolled 18 double odd. those were kind of irrelevant. But you take their roll, an 18 double up would be a +3 to hit, a +6 to damage. Just a huge advantage. Look at an 18. Say you have a battle cleric, he's an 18 strength. He has a +1 to hit, a +2 to damage. The fighter up here, a +3 to hit, a +6 to damage. Those were huge because you get very, very few bonuses to hit in the game and to damage. So when you have them, you do not have feats in this game. There is one feat in the game, weapon specialization, that only fighters could take. However, most game masters I played with would allow rangers, paladins, Unarthurcana barbarians, Unarthurcana cavaliers, and probably any damn thing you took out of a dragon magazine, as long as it fell into the warrior scope to specialize. And there were other house rules or dragon magazine rules for double specialization and all sorts of things. But in the book, only fighters can specialize. And they can specialize in as many weapons as they want, up to the limits that they have. But that's the only feat that they have. Well, no, that's not true. They also have blind fighting. There might be one other knowledge proficiency that legitimately translates out to a feat. Endurance, I think. But I think their endurance is substantially different, to the point that it kind of just shares the name otherwise. So, you have an 18 strength with a percentile. Percentile strength I didn't like at all. I was so glad they got rid of that. Now, dexterity, at 15 you get a bonus, a -1 to armor class. Armor class goes down in this game, not up. At 16 you get, I think, you get a -2 to defense, a +1 to hit, and a +1 to initiative. Talk about how initiative works a little bit later. So you have that for your for your dexterity. Now your constitution, only fighters can have the benefit of a 17 or higher constitution. Another very house rulesy kind of thing. Kind of pigeonholing the classes into working with statistics. I think that doesn't make any sense at all. If somebody is really, really strong and knows how to use a weapon, then it should be based off the amount of ability they have with that weapon and their actual strength. If you look at the strength, not only can that fighter swing a sword better and do more damage, well, he's a fighter, he should be able to do more damage with the sword. Okay, not a great argument, but there's legs on it. However, picking stuff up, why can a fighter pick up more stuff than a really insanely buff guy that happens to cast spells? It's all about the actual strength you have, and that it just doesn't hold any sense to me. I think it's just garbage. I never liked it when I played AD&D. It was one of the things when I saw it change, I was like, yes. You have so you have that problem with Constitution, well, which I don't like. So then you go into Intelligence. Intelligence, kind of the same. It gives you a bonus number of skill points, basically. You can either use them for languages or get extra knowledge and proficiencies with them. And, of course, there's some effect onto wizards. You don't really need intelligence the same way with wizards that you do in third. Which is, say, a dumber wizard. A wizard can be a bit dumber and still cast higher level spells. All you need is a 9 intelligence to be a wizard. A 9... and AD&D, I think first edition, they actually stipulate what intelligence means. You just add a 0 to it, that's your IQ. A 90 IQ is an imbecile. That's just a dumb guy. And if you say, 100's average, 100 people with 100 IQs are also not real with it. That's not really a great mental position to be in. You look at that and go, how can a guy that's that kind of mentally inept have that sort of ability to be a high level wizard? So it can be a bit interesting there, but you can do it. Of course, you can come up with good reasons. And hell, you can make a wizard that had a really high wisdom score and a low intelligence, and kind of play it a little bit differently. Play against types there. Charisma in the game, unfortunately, was the mega dump stat. I saw people dump it so much I got utterly sick of it. I just started saying, if I could make a fantasy version to play of myself, which, that's what a lot of people do in high school. I said, well, why would I, not a fantasy version of me to say, but a fantasy role for me to play, Why on earth would I want him to be ugly and, have a tongue that just trips over and have poor personal skills, probably body odor? I'm not trying to roll with an 8 charisma. That's ridiculous. Why not be opulent? Why not roll with that fat 18 charisma? And, I even would play like in Dungeon Hacks and in con games, like, here you go, 18 charisma. No, you put your stat in the wrong place. No, just go ahead and have an 18 charisma. Yeah, no, that's fine. The rest of the guys can do whatever they want. I'm going to make my character the way I want him to be. And being regal and luxurious is really its own reward. But a lot of times, people didn't really get with it because charisma literally did nothing for you in second edition. So there's a real big problem. There's a big disparity between the stats. 3X did a much better job of that. A much better job. 1,000 times better job of handling all your stats being important. Are all your stats still as equally important per class build? No. Absolutely not. However, they are more important. In that charisma, I saw it dumped over and over again. But that's basically your stats. And charisma didn't key on anything. It didn't, help with casting of anything. All it was a rec stat for druids, bards, paladins, and I think those are only 3 classes that rec stat for. Maybe illusionists. I think they had a different rec than. Oh well. Talking about classes for a minute, you have all the specialty wizards. However, they give this big push to illusionists, more than they did in third, which I said, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think illusionists are that great of a class. I'd much rather play an enchanter. Illusionists, conjurers, and evokers are kind of the bottom for me. Abjurers I don't really much like either, because those are the ones I see people play all the time. Give me the other 4. I definitely much rather play the diviner, necromancer, enchanter, or transmuter. I always call transmuters alchemists because that's what they are. I think those all those make pretty good classes. They're a bit more unique. They're a bit more fun. A lot of those spells are more the interesting spells. Divining spells are freaking awesome. They did something different, though, with their specialty wizards in AD&D 2nd edition. They had opposition schools. There were, and I believe, 2 opposition schools to each of them. I don't know which ones were banned, but even divination was banned to someone. So if it was your opposition school, you couldn't have. I think it's 2 you were banned, but it's possible it was just 1, and maybe even as many as 3. And you may everyone who had divination banned though had something called a minor school of divination. So you could still cast and detect magic and maybe even read magic were divination. I think read magic might have been one as well. So, that kind of interesting. You had magic power pulls from these different places. And if your magic power really pulls from necromancy, there's just stuff you couldn't cast. You just couldn't because your magic pulled from too far away from it. I think that gave the game better flavor. And that is the thing AD&D 2nd Edition has, just in terms of it. It is a much worse system. It is much clunkier. However, the flavor written into the game is much better than 3X, 3.5, and certainly a lot better than 4th edition. Much better. There's a few things I don't like, and it's much better than 1st edition, too. They had a lot of kind of hokey things in 1st edition that they just toned down. They're like, every class level, the Myrmidon, the, booty rapist, whatever it was for the fighter, every level, just ridiculous stuff. And that did not help me, and particularly for the wizard. I think one of the levels in 1st edition was like the necromancer. I'm like, wait a minute. No, I'm casting fireballs. Why am I the necromancer? That doesn't make any sense. Not playing with dead things. It's disgraceful to me. Of course I really was. I'm just trying to front. I didn't even have fireball. So they kind of deep six that stuff and cleaned it up a little bit. The stuff they do with paladins, absolutely excellent. Although they integrated that in, I think that's gold gems to keep for all future editions. Paladin can only have X, Y, and Z. Paladin has to tithe to his religious order. Yes. Gold. The Paladin, the way they handle that, the limitations of wealth, magic items, and the tithing, all great stuff. Druid, not as good. Having to fight the other people was just stupid. I didn't like that at all. The fact that when you would come to the Hierophant, like you have not the guy at the Hierophant, the guy that's like the Arch Grand Druid at like 15th or 16th level, and they come in him, basically his responsibility to tend to all of that stuff, and you come to him and say, hey, dude, I can do this. Look at me. Can I do it? What do you think? And he says, yeah, dude, you can do this. And then he just retires and becomes a Hierophant. I like it like that. I think that's cool. The search, the quest, and the fact you quest for your Paladin Warhorse, you quest for your War Sword. You have these great, cool quests as a Paladin. That is wonderful fluff. And they didn't do enough of that in the 3X line. I will gladly, all day long, say, that's better. And the best piece of fluff all in the AD&D line series is the story they put in the beginning to teach you how to play the weir rats in the sewer and the people splashing around, and it talks they're out of character, they're in character, and you're reading the whole thing. Like, man, that's how you play D&D. That's wonderful. Remember the first D&D games I played? Like, God, you guys are fucking balls. I want to be in those weir rat sewers. This is my joint. I want to be with that. That was wonderful, provocative to my mind. I loved that whole weir rat thing. I mean, I might pull up my PDF of the AD&D game and look at that again and read it. I really enjoyed it. It was really, really nice. There's stat requirements for classes, which is going to be another difference, which is a bit odd. All classes had requirements. Your 4 cores just had 9s. All you had was a 9 strength to be a fighter, a 9 intelligence to be a wizard, 9 wisdom to be a cleric, 9 dexterity to be a rogue. That's it. That's all. But the other classes, like, you had to have a 17 charisma. And I think that's the highest rec, a 17 charisma to be a paladin. But you also had to have, like, a certain wisdom, a certain con, and a certain strength. So, there's a lot of exacting demands. You, I think, had to be a specialist. I think you may have had to have higher, I'm almost positive you had to have higher stats to be a specialist wizard. And if you didn't roll those stats, it's like, well, you can't play that class. And sometimes people would make you roll down a line, which I am a huge opponent of that style. And you'd be like, well, I really want to play a fighter. Well, sorry, you got 8 strength, dude. You can't do it. No, I really want to play a fighter. No, you need to play a wizard. I want to play a wizard. I want to play a fighter. Nope. Come on, dude. I want to play a fighter. Nope. I saw that, and I think that sort of autocratic style as a game master is a huge problem. It's almost psychological issue manifested by a game master to have that degree of control. Yeah, just let people do what they want. Let them have a good time. As long as they're not sorry for your game, just let them do whatever they want. And I think that's one of the issues I think Brian has with some of these things. It's like, I think he's seen people that are just trying to power game, to rape people's game, to demean people's game, and to try to exploit the system. And that, the type of player is fucking horrible. And whatever they're doing is horrible, but that doesn't mean the thing that they've done in itself is bad. Just the tactic and way they've used and manipulated the strings to pull together and do power game through that. And the exact same tactics you take to power game can be used in a completely non-power gaming way. Any of them, 100% up and down the line, can be used for concept, for form over function, for a great role-playing game character. It's just unfortunate that people take excessives and abuses, and that's not cool. And those players can eat a dick. So, some balls also on that. Besides that, let's go back into the review here a little bit. AD&D has a wonderful, extensive list of weapons. I wish I had one of my player's handbooks. Still, I used to have 3 of them. I'd show you the list. I love the way they handle the weapons. They have a rule in there called speed factor. Most people hate speed factor. Like, yay, it's gone 3x. Not me. Speed factor was my favorite rule in the game. I love it. It makes so much sense. I play a game with this. I played a game that was absolutely terrible in Muscle named Bill, who was horrible, a horrible player, and just horrible. I mean, it basically wouldn't cheat, but he would strong arm and manipulate people with, certain tactics, and not that he was a strong guy, he was a pussy, but strong arming them with manipulative tactics in games to try to get things over. He owned this game store, and he would try to use that as leverage on people. Just utterly sick and pathetic behavior. This guy had a fighter with a 2-handed sword, and because 3X does not have speed factor, he had 2 daggers, and he had his character tricked out, so he got all kinds of initiative bonuses. I had 2 daggers. Maybe I should at least once win sometimes on initiative. Never. I mean, he would roll, bam, it's like, 38 initiative, 40 initiative. I don't know what the hell he was getting, but his numbers were astronomical compared to mine. I have 2 daggers. And I was a rogue with a high dexterity, and I have improved initiative, but I didn't have that, but I had a high dexterity, like a 16 probably at the time. And he's just crushing me on this every single time with the 2-handed sword. Or, come on, man. It doesn't even make any sense. I think a two-handed sword either had a 10. It either had a 10 or 13 for speed factor. I had one of those two numbers. I'm not positive which one, but the way you would calculate that, let's just say it at a 10. So you have a 10, then you would take your dexterity modifier to initiative. Say you had a 16 dex, that gave you a modifier of 1 to your initiative. You take that modifier and subtract it, and now you have a 9. Now, with your dexterity, for example, a dagger had additional modifier of 2. Let's say your dexterity was a 17, giving you a modifier of 2 to your weapon speed. The 2 cannot minus out against the other 2. It can only knock it down to 1. All weapons have to have at least a speed of 1 through your dexterity. This can be modified through magic. However, the magic modifier has to be put together first. Now, if you have a dagger that's +1, the +1 dagger will modify your initiative down by 1 step. Now, if you had a, say, the 17 dex that give you a +2 decrease to the stat, that would still only give you down to 1. The dagger does not look at your dexterity. It looks at the number, and it minuses out against that number to give you a 1. So even with that, you can still have 1. However, if you were a dude with like a 9 dex and you had a +2 dagger, it gives you a 0. Now, I believe weapons cannot go below 0, even with magical bonuses. So let's say you had that 10 speed factor. It might be a 13, but I think it's a 10. Two-handed sword. You have a 17 dexterity. That's knocking down to an 8, and it's a +5 weapon. That's knocking down to a 3. You still have a 3 initiative. My daggers give me a 0 initiative bonus. You're still behind me by 3. And initiative used to be rolled with a d10. You roll a d10, and then you add to it. You wanted a low initiative. I'm almost positive that's right. The lowest initiative was better. And you just call them off, and you go down. And you'd either roll it all once for combat or round by round. I think the rules state to go round by round, but I'm not 100% positive on that. So that's what speed factor did. It took into account the size of the weapon. And even if you don't like speed factor, what it does is it gives an additional category for a weapon. Games get really repetitive when all they have are, a few. If you just have a few, the less categories you have for a weapon, the less differentials you can put between weapons. So it makes obvious choices. When choices are less obvious, you have more variety. Now, some people will just plain out take a sickle because they want to play with a sickle. I will. A lot of people won't. But if the sickle has, it's like, okay, the sickle's not that great, but in this one category, it's really cool. People are like, oh, I really like that category, so let me at least try to get a sickle. So you get more variety when the longsword is the obvious choice over and over again. And I think just about in every edition of D&D, it is the obvious choice. It really whores the weapon and kills it. You're like, oh, God, another longsword, really? What about them cool warhammers? I'm going to use that warhammer. And then you just get to the point where, no, I'm just going to use a warhammer. I'm not going to use a longsword. And I, in the entire run of 3rd edition, have not used a longsword. Even back in towards 2nd edition, I haven't used a longsword. Not because I use them very much. Hell, I don't think I ever had a character other than just in a scrub game that even used a longsword. Don't like them. Don't necessarily even dislike them from my character back then. But I was looking at the other ones. I was like, these weapons just look cooler. They're neater. I can get more flavor with that. But I would see players over and over and over again obsessively abusing the longsword. Talk about races for a second. The elves get a +1 bonus to longsword, short swords, longbows, short bows. Now, if you had the access, classes where you could take and select certain weapons based on your class. Now, some classes had the ability to take really good weapons, weapons that had the better crunch, the two-handed swords, the long swords, these sort of weapons. And some classes had a more limited repertoire, such as the wizard. I think they had staff, dagger, dart, sling. They might not have even had sling. I think it might have just been staff, dagger, dart. They might not have sling. I don't think they had club, although every class should have club. It's like the easiest weapon to use, I think. But I don't think they did. So, really, really limited. Even more limited. I think they even in 3rd, they have a few more choices there. And not that a wizard should necessarily have choices. But they certainly didn't. And clerics could not use anything but bludgeoning weapons, which is stupid. That makes no sense. There's nothing kinder about crushing someone's shoulder and skull in with a mace than there is of cutting their head off. In fact, actually, crushing bludgeoning weapons are crueler and more sadistic. Warhammer or a mace is more sadistic, and there's nothing that I can ever think of that makes any sense to justify why bludgeoning weapons are the holy ones. No, those are horrifying weapons. A Morning Star, these weapons are not. It's not like you're using a net and pacifistic. Clerics are very generic in the base book. In some of the expansions for 2nd edition, clerics are the class that rocks because every god has a cleric that's almost a completely different class. That's exactly how clerics should be handled. 3X falls flat on their face trying to do that. They just kept trying to domain. And domains were a good idea, a great piece, but it's like here. They're like here, where you can't see my hand. My hand is up, but you can't see it because it ain't making that much of a difference, you understand? They needed to be up here. Like, they should have come above. They fell flat on their face. Legends and Lore, the Forgotten Realms books for clerics rocked. I mean, they were individual, distinct, and a cleric of a god should be different from a cleric of a different god. They should be very different. They're getting the utmost of that divine power. They should look different. And in those books, they sure as hell did. They had access to different. Some couldn't heal. Some couldn't use different elemental spheres, and it completely makes sense. I house rule all that stuff into my 3.5 game, and I think, man, they really did it. That was an excellent point. And cleric, definitely my favorite class in the AD&D line when you take the specialty clerics into account. The base cleric, I think, is utter garbage. Now, rogues, another difference. They do not have sneak attack. They have backstab, which is very different. Sneak attack is not backstab. It is not. If you backstab someone, that can be a sneak attack. However, all sneak attack is, and this is why I was talking about, a paladin could use his Brian. Sneak attack is essentially how to strike with great precision. Swinging your sword and trying to strike with less precision doesn't negate a sneak attack. You really know how to hit people in the places they hurt hard, and you know how to use tactics. I think a paladin would certainly use flanking and flank someone in a war situation. Now, in a one-on-one fight, or if it comes down to that, they're not going to do that. So they're not really going to set up their sneak attack. They're not going to bluff people. They're not going to be optimal to use sneak attacks. However, there are situations where it occurs where even someone who's a lawful good holy paladin can use a sneak attack with absolutely no problem. Because it's not backstab. You're not running up behind someone and just ganking them, because the thief would be like, oh no, I can't do anything. And they're like, oh, not you bitch ass thief. And then the thief with a dagger right to the ball sack. And that's, what the backstab is, when they're not even knowing or paying attention or caring that you're there. Or, you just walk up in a tavern and, you just slit somebody's throat without them knowing about it. Sneak attack, all you have to do is get someone off balance to hit a sneak attack. It's about precision. The backstab really has a lot of cowardice connotations to it, because you're hitting somebody that's just not paying any attention at all to you. Not someone that's just off balance, that you just have outmaneuvered tactically. So that's a different advantage. Thieves were class that completely changes. They go from being the class that had the least experience point total and was really kind of a class. They did traps, and that was about it. They could handle that, and they could be your stealthy guy. They were pretty poor in combat. They could only use leather armor, no shields, and they had fairly light weapons. So they changed completely. When I saw Thieves, I was like, ooh, this is different. And I really like the Striker. I like doing the damage. I enjoy that. Rogue is my favorite 3.5 class. Besides regular clerics, probably my least favorite 2nd edition class, because you just couldn't do very much. Finding traps and stuff like that is, it's not fun. I hate traps. You watch my video on that. So I was really wanting to play the guy. In fact, when I play Rogue 3.5, I will, if allowed, immediately buy off find traps for something else, because I don't want to encourage that in a game. I hate it that much. It's just completely unfun to me. That's part of the classes here. But like I said, some of them have much better fluff, and that's really what you get. It's a good immersion into trying to understand the flavor and feel. And I wish the 3X line had a bit more of that in it. Another thing that 3X did that I went fucking berserk when I saw is they just tell you in the class essentially how to min-max it. You don't need Constitution for this class. you do need Constitution for this class, and you certainly better have Strength, Dexterity too. It's like, why does my sorcerer need Dexterity and Constitution? Really? I mean, that's really what a sorcerer should have. Maybe it's called sorcerer should have some wisdom. There's a fly in here. I'm about to just monkey stomp this fly, or at least have a 2 out of 3 falls match with him. I'm a renowned insect wrestler. Right? For those who don't know, I am half of the Moth Tag Team Champions. Defeating Moss Obonic elbows and getting a 3 count. That's documented. Now, the armor class descends in this game, and a -10 is the limit to it, but there aren't very many things that give bonuses to hit. So a -10 isn't really an equivalent to a 30. It's probably more like the equivalent of a 45, 42, 41, somewhere in there, 38, because getting bonuses is substantially harder. Doing the math there, it'd be a bit hard because you have to take a lot of factors into account, which I'm definitely not going to do. But it's more than equivalent of a 30. As it basically says, you can only be so hard to hit. Magic items are largely kind of stayed the same between editions. They have, in second edition, they have no half-orcs in the base book, but I mean, they have in the base AD&D first edition book, and you could very easily port that exact half-orc over, no problem at all. Otherwise, all the races the same in the 3X book. They have, the 3X books has a few more classes in it. It has Barbarian, which there's an Unearthed Arcana Barbarian, which is awesome. You could just bring over from first edition. And there's a Sorcerer, which does not appear, as far as I know, anywhere in the annals of second edition. At the very end of second edition, they did some really, really bad things. They tried to monkey with the thing in the Skills and Powers book. Don't use those in your game. They just present some just bizarre and poorly thought out decisions to absurdly min-max your character, you know. I'm not even going to get into those, but those books are terrible. Kits. I love kits. Thought kits were a great way to add flavor, to add distinction. One of the big problems with the game, your character's bland. Now, that doesn't mean any of the role-playing part. All of that is pretty much equal across the line to any game, period. How well you can design a character. But the actual nuts and bolts can restrict you. And, of course, you can always house rules anything. But the way the game is written, you have less choice. And less choice in Crunch, to say you have less weapons to pick from or whatever it is, means you're going to eventually have larger numbers of the whole population of people playing it, making the same selections. And, you know, like I mentioned before with elves, with the elf with the long sword, I saw it so many times that for like 10 years I just hated elves. And anyone says, I like elves, I just punch them in the face. I wouldn't really feel them. But I just hated them, and I wouldn't even play elves anymore. I've finally sort of gotten over that a little bit, but I don't use longswords, and even my players in the game know, well, they're not going to trick out a longsword wielding character, because they're going to have a damn hard time finding a masterwork one, and good luck, because wizards in my game don't like to enchant longswords. They enchant other weapons. I just think it's it's a trope to this point. You know, it's just done to death. Let's have some cool, neat weapons, man. Let's use a Warhammer or a Morning Star, and have some more fun with those fighters. And you know, I find that quite interesting. So, you know, overall, in my review, I think there's a lot of similarities between the magic system, though, if you the advanced magic system, which I despise. I think the cleric, especially priest, is better done. I think the fluff is much better done, particularly pertaining to classes, although I think, you know, a few amendments need to be made. And I love the intro with the rat people. Absolutely love it. Love speed factor. And I'm totally thinking next time I run D&D, I'm just going to port over speed factor. And I'm going to go to the Conan RPG and just completely take out their damage reduction armor thing, which I think is an awesome rule. That is sort of my review of AD&D. Weapon proficiencies. You don't just get them with a class. Each class gets a number of weapon proficiencies, and you get them at certain levels, additional ones. Then, if you don't know how to use a weapon, you get a penalty, but it's based on your class. If you're a fighter and you don't know how to use a club and you pick a club up, you get a -2 penalty hit with it. But if you're a wizard and you pick a club up, it's either a -5 or -6. It's really high, and like rogue and priest aren't quite as bad. But priest can't use anything that's not a bludgeoning weapon, or like they basically have to atone, which, again, it's stupid. But that's in the rules. So, besides that, you have to buy each weapon individually with your slots. Now, it costs 2 slots to specialize. So, if you're a fighter at first level, you get 4 slots. So, you want to take your long sword, and you say, I want to be a specialized long sword. Boom, that's 2 of your slots. then you know your next 2 slots, you're this stupid little elf. Like, oh, I take the longbow and I'm gonna take short sword, and that's what you got. You know, so you have to make your choices a bit more carefully, and you can again still use those other weapons. A -2 penalty isn't that terrible. You can still use it, particularly looking at the other people. They have Thaco to hit armor class 0 in the game. The saves are very different because some spells give you penalties to save written in there, but a save against a 3rd level spell and a 1st level spell exactly the same. So if you save against Burning Hands and Fireball, you need the same target number. That got completely changed. It's like, that was a weird rule. I think overall, I don't know. I don't know. Both editions are kind of different the way they handle it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have mixed feelings on that. The classes had a bunch of different saving throws. Some of them were really scary, like saving throw versus death. There are not very many death effects that came over in the 3rd. There were lots of them in 1st. They got trimmed down a little bit, I think, in 2nd, and not taken out, but very minimized, very, very minimized in 3rd, where you don't, it's not really a save you would need exactly, but it's just put into the other saves. You had, I think you had more categories. Now, besides the saves, the hit goes down, and one of the big problems with the game was things would go down, other things would go up, and they're rolling. Like, you want low for this, you want high for this, you want low for this. Now, if you play the game, no problem for me. Boom, 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 all day long, I could do it. But people who are the lower intelligence end, or people who are new, people that weren't mathematically gifted, any of these groups of people would have a bit of a trouble with that. Always up, always up, always up, always up in 3.0. I see people pick it up in like a minute, a minute of just test rolling. The up, down, up, down, up, down thing threw people off. It definitively, without any room for argument, always up is easier to learn. I have seen it over so many test subjects, the people I've played with, particularly new gamers, that I can definitively, unequivocally state that always up is not only better, but massively better. Now, you might say, well, this and that makes more realistic. That's not even what I'm even arguing here. It is easier for them to learn always up. And as a game master, the 915th time you hear the same question, you start getting a little less than patient. At least I do. Maybe Rob Pepper wouldn't, because he has absurd amounts of patience. But me, not so much. So, it does make it overall easier. And then you had non-weapon proficiencies, which were an advancement, but non-weapon proficiencies suck compared to skills. They are very crudely poorly done. You could put multiple slots in them, which getting the skill would probably be the equivalent of having about 5 ranks of... getting a non-weapon proficiency is about the equivalent of 5 ranks of a skill, the way my mind processes skills. Adding an extra point to it, you got very few points compared to skill points. You just get a few at first level, and then at higher levels you get more non-weapon proficiencies, and they're limited by your class as well. I think you might have been able to pay extra to get them out of class. I'm not sure. So you could have these skills, and then you could roll against them. Like I said, when you bought that initial skill, some of them cost 1 point, some cost I think up to 3, and you could have a skill that was less than it was 5 ranks, just to say that. And, you had to, I think you had to roll less than your skills. What I'm trying to say, 1 point of skill would be about 5 ranks if it was a 1 point skill. Now, if you put an extra point into that skill, you would get a +1 bonus. So it basically be like, hey, I got 5 ranks in a skill here. I added another exact quantity of it to get a +1 bonus, which is like 1 extra skill point. So for 1 point, I got 5 ranks, and for 2 points, I got 6 ranks. It's like, that doesn't sound good. The way they handled that was one of the sloppiest parts of those skills. That was the first skills that were really introduced. The secondary skills were really, really bad. It's just very, very, very basic and primitive that they had for AD&D. So that was an advancement, I thought, between the editions. But when Skill Points came out, I was like, oh, thank you. That's so wonderful. Because, of course, I've been playing White Wolf games by this, and I was like, oh, I don't like this novel proficiency. I don't like the way it's handled. But they were there, and they were an advancement. But they have been advanced past, in my estimation. And that's overall my review. Again, I do not hate AD&D. I think you can play a campaign of it that would be very enjoyable. I think it is more limited. I do not like the way they handle multi-classing. I discussed that in another video. And this is probably an absurdly long video now, so I'm not going to go into that. But I think overall it's a good game. You can have a good time with it. And certainly if you have looked at the 3X line and you say, I like second better, play it. The books are cheap for the most part. There are a few really expensive ones. But for the most part, the books are cheap. If you want them, though, go on eBay and look for lots. You can get large lots of them for really cheap. Don't buy 1 or 2 books here and there. Look for a lot. You'll save a lot of money that way. Someone buys a lot of has bought a lot of stuff on eBay. Just trust me on that one. And be patient. Wait a couple months. You can get some absurdly sweet deals. I mean, you might be able to get your books like $1, $2, $3 each total shipped to your house if you buy like 10 of them. So you can get those really sweet honey deals out there. But there's my review for second edition. Hopefully that adds some clarity to my position on it. Like the game, just think that the system has a lot of clunkiness to it, a lot of house rulesiness to it, just in the way it's generally set up. Overall, would I ever play a game again of AD&D second edition? Only if I was really desperate for a game, or thought the game master was just going to hit it out of the park. And I think a game master I trust they went out of the park. I'll play whatever he wants. I'll play for Shadowrun if he wants. So there's that.